Hello, this is a short 5-minute film on data filtering in Mathematica. So what you see here is I have a data set and I've called it data. It has two columns, one called input and one called output. I'm going to evaluate that data set, and so that it is now recognized by Mathematica. You might notice that this is a pure numerical data set, and that's really important when you're doing a lot of these things like filtering and plotting. You can't be doing that on data that has units in it. For example, if I had 10 feet in there as a unit, what I'm about to do is not going to work. So there are techniques for getting rid of that extraneous data, but that's not the point of this particular podcast, okay? So the first thing I want to do, based on what I just said, is I do have non-numerical data in this data set. I have my header rows. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to delete that first row of data. So you see when I do that, I now only have 1 through 110, 2, 4, 3, 6, 4, whatever, and going from there. If I keep doing that, if I keep evaluating that, what you should notice there is it keeps deleting row after row of data until I'm finally done. So what you want to do there is evaluate that whole notebook and not have that problem. I'm going to suppress that because I don't need to see that output. Okay? All right. I'm going to want to, and you are too, I'm going to want to separate my data into individual data sets. So now I have a data set called, oops, let me evaluate the whole notebook so I get everything. As my evaluation work, there we go. Okay. So now I have a data set called input, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I have a separate data set called output, which is 10 through all those numbers there. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a data table called results, and what I'm doing here basically is building an empty data table with the header rows in there. Okay, so if I do that, and let me do this so you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do this so I can actually see what it looks like. Okay, what you see here is that's my table so far, or I could have said grid results, and I'm only doing this to show you that I have sort of an empty data table ready to go. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so I have that all ready to go, and I'm going to take that out because I don't need it, reevaluate this, and go from there. Okay, so what we're ready to do now is actually to do the filtering. And as I just said, we're going to use what's called a do loop. And a do loop means keep doing something until something tells you to stop. So like any Mathematica command, it starts with a square bracket. I'm going to hit a bunch of character returns and put a square bracket at the end. That's going to remind me that I have to remember that I have to close that do loop. And in that do loop, I'm going to put an if statement. And likewise, it's going to start with a square bracket, and I'm going to go down and give myself some space. We'll clean up all this extra space after a while. Okay, what do I want to do? In this particular case, I want to look at the output column 10, 4, 6, 256, and 6, and I want to select out the row that has the highest number. Obviously, I can do that with my eyes. Okay, it's row number 4. Okay, but if I had thousands of rows, I don't want to be doing that with my eyes. So since I want the biggest number, I'm going to say find the maximum of output. And remember, I created that as a separate variable up here in the transpose statement. Okay, I'm now going to do a double equal sign, so equal space, and notice how they get shifted together. What that double equal sign there means is that says max output is defined as, and now I'm going to search all of the rows. Okay, I'm going to search all of the rows. Okay, and I'm going to search, oops, excuse me, I spell it right, there we go. I'm going to search all the rows. Okay. And if that is true, if the maximum output is equal to some row, what I want to do is I'm going to add something to my results table. So I'm going to do an append, and I'm going to append something to results. And what do I want to append to it? Okay, I want to append the input from whatever row it found and the output from whatever row it found. Okay, and I'll go ahead and close that list and close that square bracket. And that's what I'm going to want to do that's the if statement. So it's two statements there. I check to find out where the maximum value is in output. And when I find it, I append it onto this data table called results. Okay? So I'm done my if statement, but I'm not done my do loop yet. I want to do this from row going from 1 to the length of the data set. And I could have just put a 4 in there, but if you have long data, you don't want to be counting. And that's all I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up some of these extraneous spaces that I put together. Okay, and I'm going to run that do loop. Notice that nothing happens. Okay, when you do a do loop, nothing happens. So what I want to do, what it did for me is it created a data table called results. So what I want to do there is take a look at what that data table looks like. And there we go. Okay, so remember I created the header up here. I did that right there. And then with the do loop, it found that row 4 has the maximum value, and it put that out in the table. I hope that helps, and we'll see you online.